My name is Charlene Margot, and I'm co-founder of nonprofit The Parent Venture that brings you this program, the Parent Education Series, now in its 18th year. We are delighted to have with us Dr. Eran Magen, who's going to be speaking to you today about mastering the art of constructive feedback, something all of us with kids, young and old, are still looking to master. So hopefully we will get some great tips today from Dr. Magen.
Hello, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. If you're feeling camera ready, I would love to see you, just because, Charlene and Bev have heard all of this before, and this way it won't feel like I'm just talking to them. If you're feeling camera shy, that's okay too. So, like Charlene was saying, we're recording this part where I'm talking. It's only going to record me, even if your cameras are on, it's only recording the person making noise, which is me. And then we'll be very clear about when the recording stopped, and then we can start having a conversation around this. So if you're in a camera sharing mood, by all means, and if not, that's okay. Let me share my screen. Great. So before starting, well, as I start, I guess the first thing I want to say is good for you for being here. I think it's wonderful. I think it's not obvious that you're making time to just stop and think about how to parent and how to interact with your kids better. And it's wonderful that you're taking a break out of your undoubtedly busy schedules to do this. I'm glad you're here. I hope this is helpful for you. There's a lot that is important to think about when giving feedback and about how to do it well, and it's impossible to do all of it in a relatively short amount of time. So I'm going to be doing essentially like, headings or samplers of things that we could talk about. And as we get to the discussion portion, just say what it is that you want to talk about more, ask questions that you have, and then we'll do it. I found this one. Oh, sorry, before I jump into the content, as some of you know already, I usually think about interactions between parents and kids, between people in general, as happening somewhere on this continuum of emotional intensity, right? If everybody's very happy and fine and calm, we're in the green zone. If everybody's super upset, we're in the red zone. If some people are kind of normally upset, they're in the yellow zone. And we focus on different things at different levels of emotional charge. If everything is fine and everybody's happy and calm, this is a good time to be building and strengthening relationships. People are upset already, kind of in the yellow zone. This is a good time to support them and support them well. If people are very upset to the point of being in crisis, then we have to intervene and save the crisis, sometimes at the cost of the relationship, at least temporarily. Today, I'm going for something that's right on that edge between people are okay and people are maybe a little bit upset, because typically times when we want to give feedback are around times when our kids feel that something is wrong and maybe getting a little bit frustrated about it, maybe not, or maybe we're getting a little bit frustrated and we want to fix it, right? So somebody's a little upset or getting close to upset. So that's kind of the scenario that I have in mind. We might want to give our kids feedback in many different kinds of situations for many different kinds of things, right? They have kind of bloopers around the house. Maybe they're not being safe in what they're doing. Maybe they're learning a sport and it's super exciting for us to try to get them to do it well, or they want to do it really well. Maybe they're constantly having relationship problems with their siblings or with other kids in their lives. Maybe we think that they could be doing school better and we have ideas, or we see that they want to do school better and they kind of ran out of ideas. There's an endless variety of things for which we all want to give other people advice about, and with their kids all the more so. So I'm going to try to talk about basic principles for how to do all of these things in a way that will be positive and helpful. This is a short video that the Little League of the United States produced to remind us all what it's like to be a kid. I wonder I hope the audio will transfer. Tell me if you can.
Come on, son, hit the ball.
Right, like horrifying. I remember being at baseball field once. I was walking my dog and I saw a sign that said, "Parents, please relax. There are no scouts here. Nobody's future rests on what happens on the field." Like just it was an official sign. It was like engraved in metal. It was like a serious sign. Parents get very intense sometimes about things. So there's a very common style of feedback, especially real-time feedback, that is very like in their face. And the main message that I hope people walk away with from today, like the bottom line, again, for those of you that are tired and have a limited concentration span, is we are the voice that the kids will carry in their heads for a very, very long time, possibly the rest of their lives, right? The way we talk to them is the way they will talk to themselves and to many other people. And so the question really is, what kind of voice do we want our kids to carry around in their head? This is the voice we have to provide them. There are no shortcuts. There's no way to cheat this process. The way we talk to them is the way they will talk to themselves. They'll also talk to us the way we talk to them, which gives us kind of a barometer of what's happening. But that's less of a problem if they don't talk to us well. If they don't talk to themselves very well, that's a big problem, because think about the voices that we have in our own heads. How do we talk to ourselves? Where did these voices come from? Right? That's going to be your kids' experiences too. They're going to have a voice in their head. They're going to be doing something and they're going to be commenting to themselves about what they're doing. What voice do we want them to employ toward themselves? And I would suggest that our aim is to use the voice that we want them to have in the future as they talk to themselves as adults. So I think that there are basically two approaches to providing feedback. And in these different approaches, you can consider the impact on different aspects of the kids, well, different aspects of the kids. One aspect is performance, and typically people think about this immediately and say feedback, right? How often do you hit the ball in the baseball, and what kind of grade do you get in your test, and how many friends do you have, and so on. There's also an important consideration, which is, what does the feedback that we provide do to our relationship with our kid? Which I think is paramount, right? Because the better the relationship, the easier everything becomes in our lives with our kids, and the more pleasant it is, right? What's more important really than our relationship with our kids? Is their performance more important than our relationship with them? I think that's an important question to ask ourselves. Sometimes maybe, sometimes not. The kid's sense of self-worth, right? The way and the form and the content of the feedback we provide has a major impact on how our kids perceive themselves and their sense of being able to do whatever it is that they set out to do, their general sense of self-efficacy. I am able to achieve this or that. So in the big picture, I would say there are two approaches to feedback. One is the impulsive approach. We see something wrong, we name it, maybe we make a suggestion. And the other is more what I would call skilled or thoughtful. And so I don't know if you've been purchasing anything online recently, car insurance, subscription to some service. They always have these boxes and they show you what the features are for each one. So that's what I'm modeling this after. So the impulsive feedback, we hope that it'll improve performance. Sometimes it does, often it doesn't. And then we increase the intensity of the feedback, and then things just kind of escalate from there. It usually does not improve relationships. Often it makes it worse. It usually does not improve the kid's sense of self-worth. Even if you shout at them, this should be easy for you. Like, that's not exactly right. The thing that feels great. And likewise, in terms of improving the general sense of self-efficacy, often doesn't work when we just kind of blurt out the first thing that comes to our mind. Skilled feedback will help all of those things. Right? Skilled feedback is feedback that aims to improve performance while improving relationships, while improving the kid's sense of self-worth, while improving their general sense of self-efficacy. These two packages come with a cost, of course. The impulsive feedback is very easy and comes at no cost to you, but may destroy your child's soul. The skilled feedback requires really significant thought and some amount of self-regulation too. Like, we have to reel it in when we have very strong feelings or feel like something needs to be done right now or it's not okay. So keeping these two approaches in mind. If we want to inspire anybody, including our kids, to change their behavior in some way, the first and indispensable ingredient is trust. They have to trust us, not only that we know what we're talking about and that our advice is worth following, but also that we are on their side, right? That we want to help them achieve what they want. That trust has to be implicit in the relationship. And that takes building long before the time when we give the feedback. That takes a relationship, right? And that cannot be ignored. We have to be aligned on the goal and the method. We think our kid should get the best grades possible. Is this a goal for our kid? We think the way to get the best grades possible is to study a lot. Does our kid think the same? And these to us may seem like very obvious questions and answers, but sometimes kids think really different things than their parents. And if we're not aligned on this, we can give a lot of advice about how to achieve a goal that they don't care about at all. And so why would they try? Or we could give a lot of advice about how to achieve a goal that they care about very much, which to them just lands as totally alien. Like, doesn't make any sense. What do you mean if I study more? I have a friend that just puts everything into ChatGPT and then gets perfect grades. What are you talking about? Right? Studying is not in fashion anymore. Right. So we have to spend time aligning on those things. And it's not something that can be that we can shortcut our way through. And then somewhere in the course of the conversation, we need to do things that result in our kid believing that he or she are able to implement these changes, that it's possible. It could be a tiny change, right? It can be change the angle of the thing that you're holding. It can be a huge change. Don't talk to this person again. Or go do this very scary thing, right? Go apply to this thing, but they need to believe that it's possible. And we need to help them believe that. The messages that we want to keep conveying the whole time when we're giving feedback is, I'm on your side. I'm not pushing you for my sake. And I'm not asking you to change so I feel better. Right? I understand your goals. I support your goals, and I'm here to help you achieve your goals. I'm only here for you. And I believe fully that you can do what I'm suggesting or asking you to do. And I believe it for good reason. Right? It's not a fantasy that I have that you can do this. In terms of building trust, many of you have been to any of the sessions that I do know that this is almost always a slide that I present. This idea of thinking about the strength of a relationship as an account balance, the balance of a relational bank account, which holds goodwill, right? And goodwill translates into a lot of good things in the relationship, including trust, right? The more goodwill one person has toward another, right? The more goodwill I have toward Charlene, the more I trust Charlene in general and her good intentions toward me. And the more honest I'll be with Charlene because we have a good relationship, and the more vulnerable I'll be with Charlene to share all kinds of stuff because I trust her. And the more effort I'll put into work that I do with or for Charlene, and the more I'll forgive Charlene when she makes mistakes, although she doesn't, but Charlene forgives me when I show up late or whatnot, right? Because we have a good relationship. And the more I'll just want to cooperate, comply with whatever, Charlene comes up with, because it makes sense to me, because I have a lot of goodwill toward her and I want this, right? It's a very real thing. And all of this comes from goodwill. And so if we want to give feedback that our kids will follow, first and foremost, our kids need to trust us. And for them to trust us, they need to have a lot of goodwill toward us. And to have goodwill toward us, well, then now we're getting to the relational bank account. So to increase the account balance, we make relational deposits. I do this because in my mind, I'm dropping little pennies into a piggy bank, but I don't know if that motion is obvious to everybody, and I don't think I ever explained it, but I keep saying relational deposits, but I'm not pressing a button, I'm dropping pennies. So relational deposits consist of showing our child that we care about our child, or that we respect our child, or both. Both are nice too, right? Showing it to them in ways that they understand, in ways that they perceive as being caring or respectful. We make the withdrawals by doing the exact opposite, showing our kids that we don't actually care about them, or that we don't respect them or boundaries that they pose, or their opinions or preferences and so on. We also make withdrawals by asking our kids to do things that are inconvenient for them, like clean their room or help their brother or help us with something. But that's part of life. It's okay. I mean, these things do happen. The idea here mainly is to be mindful of how many withdrawals we're making and how many deposits we're making, and make a lot more deposits than withdrawals, and use every opportunity to make deposits, usually small deposits, saying thank you, checking in with them to see how they're doing, consulting with them about their opinion about something for the whole family, things like this. We have done, and we will do entire sessions just in the relational bank account. You can see the videos on the Parent Venture YouTube channel if you want. Look for Foundations of Goodwill. You'll find it there. But I just want to touch on this topic because this is absolutely critical. This is not a tactical feature of how to give feedback that sticks. This is a prerequisite. This is a foundation. This is not in the moment. This is in the days, weeks, months, and years that come before giving that feedback, right? The more goodwill is in the relationship, the smoother feedback will flow and stick. Okay, so that's as far as trust goes. In terms of creating motivation for your child, in terms of creating motivation in your child to follow your advice, this is it's a less complicated model than it looks, but it's really one of the most wonderful theories I've come across in all the time I've been studying psychology. It's called the theory of planned behavior. It's worth a read if you're so inclined, but I'll summarize it for you. The idea is that actual behavior is in very large part determined by the intention to behave in that way, right? How many books you read depends on how many books you intend to read, and how much you'll exercise depends on how much you intend to exercise, and how much you'll paint depends on your intention to paint, and so on. It's not a one-to-one, obviously, but if we don't intend to do something, we rarely do it, by and large, looking at all of life, right? And if we intend very much to do something, we'll do more, but then if we don't intend to do it. And then how much we intend to do something depends on to what extent we think it's a good idea to do it. Will it help us achieve things we want to achieve? That's those red boxes. To what extent do we think that people who are similar to us do this thing? Those are the subjective norms. And to what extent do we believe that we're able to do this thing? Right? And if all these three are true, then we're likely to do it. That's a simplified version of this model. But what I really want us to take from this is that in your kid's mind, also in our mind, but in your kid's mind, in order for your kid to intend to do something, right? In order for me to decide I'm going to do this, I need to think that it's a good idea, and I need to believe I can do it. Those are the main components. I'll say parenthetically, I should believe I can do it with good reason, right? If I can just believe I can fly, that can be absolutely catastrophic, right? But if I want to become a hockey player, I need to believe that I'm able to learn the skills. That's what I mean when I say I believe I can do it. So how do we get our kid to a point where our kid says, I think this is a good idea, right? I think that practicing French 4 times a week is a good idea. I think that trying to completely change the way that my body is positioned when I throw a frisbee is a good idea. How do we get them to say this is a good idea? First and foremost, if they trust you, right? If you say, so you're saying you really want to get into this French club? Yes, I do. Okay, let me tell you the way I believe you can get into the French club. You need to practice 3 times a week. And if the relationship is strong enough, then just you saying that, it's almost like a credit check against your relational bank account, right? You say this thing, they're like, well, I trust this guy, right? So that's requirement 1. The second is they need to be able to see a line going from the thing you're suggesting to the goal that they have. So you need to have a very clear understanding of the goal. And you need to be able to explain how this one thing will lead to the other. Again, a saying that Charlene gave me, which I love very much, is that you have to connect the dots for people. And for some people, you just have to put the dots a little closer together. And in this case, you might say, well, you want to get into the French club. Wonderful, right? Because you said that you want to be in the State Department when you're big and you're in, whatever the reason is, you want to get to the front, great. I think what would really help you is if you are able to hold a simple conversation before going in. And in order to do this, you need to practice for at least 10 minutes, 3 times a week. And I'll show you exactly why I think this. It's because it turns out that how frequently you practice matters a lot more than how much you practice, because you just want your brain to be able to switch into the mode. I don't know, whatever your reasoning is, right? Same thing, the way that you throw a Frisbee, you know, I know that you want to be able to throw it super far, right? Farther than me. That's what you said you want. Great. Let me show you how I throw my farthest Frisbee. Let's see if you can match me first. Okay. And then we'll explain the rationale and focus on the goal that they have. It doesn't matter what the goal is, right? If you can connect to their goal and speak to their goal in a way that they understand, that's what matters. Maybe they want to do amazing charity work. Maybe they want to take over the world. Maybe they just want to sit on the couch, you know, when they're big and their goal is to create this amazing passive income business, whatever it is, connect it to a goal that they care about, and then start connecting the lines for them. Okay, the other ingredient, believing that they can do it. So why, if you say, oh, you can do this, why would they believe you? First, because they trust you. If you say, look, I don't lie to you, right? And it's very clear to me, you're totally able to do it. This will take you quite far if they trust in you a lot. It won't take you all the way, but it'll take you quite far. If you can show them other experiences that they've had that show that they're able to do this thing, that would be wonderful, right? Maybe it's from the same domain. Do you remember you used to throw a Frisbee and it only flew a yard and then went down, and now you can throw 10 yards, right? And I totally think you can increase it to 30, 40, 50, whatever it is. Remember that you used to only get C's in algebra, right? But then you practiced, and we had that one time with the tutor, and like you kind of figure it out, and then the next time you got a B+. Do you remember that? That was one session with that tutor. What if, and so on, right? So any experiences, or experiences are different than the thing you're talking about, right? You want to get into the French club, and it seems impossible because you need to speak French, and you can't imagine being able to speak French. Is that right? Do you remember when you first started playing piano? Do you remember what it felt like to just look at the sheet filled with notes? Right. It made zero, right? It was like gibberish. It made absolutely no sense. And how do you feel now sitting in front of the piano? Less gibberish, right? Like you can play like 4 fingers at once, right? So helping kids remember this process of learning and growing and improving by implementing a process. And this is a little bit of a psychological hack, but it works very well. People, the things that we can imagine well are the things that we believe are very possible. It's kind of a weird thing about, well, I mean, it makes sense in some contexts and it really doesn't make sense in other contexts. But the more we can imagine something, the more real it seems to us, the more likely it seems to us, right? And so if your kids have a goal, helping them visualize the goal and helping them visualize the path, walking them through it. Okay, so imagine you do this thing and your hand is totally straight as you're holding the Frisbee. And now when you throw, the Frisbee doesn't wobble at all. And then it goes just past that tree. Can you imagine that? That's how it would work. So helping them imagine them doing the thing well is a very helpful way of increasing their sense of being able to do it. Just being able to imagine something. Because when you can't imagine, that's the expression, right? I can't imagine doing that. That really means you're not going to try. Rounding the corner here toward the end. A couple of tactical considerations here. Timing is very, very important when you're giving feedback. So first thing is, as much as possible, unless there's something absolutely critical going on in real time, feedback is best delivered when everybody's in a good place, right? When you're pretty calm, when you're feeling pretty positive, when your kid is pretty calm, when your kid is feeling pretty receptive, right? If your kid is angry, frustrated, defensive, upset, that's not the time. You deliver feedback, it's just going to get rejected. You're going to feel rejected. You're going to get hurt. You're not going to understand why your kid is not taking your absolute gold of a piece of advice, and everybody's just going to get annoyed. So help your kid reduce charge, be less upset. When your kid is calm, or maybe at a totally different time, maybe the next day, right? Have the conversation when your kid is in a good place, when you are in a good place. Before you start the conversation, take a moment to think. Make sure you have something good to say, right? You need to remind your kid about victories. It doesn't hurt to tell your kid about the good things that that your kid did, and not just the things that require improvement, right? And make sure that you have an actually helpful suggestion, right? Try harder. Uh, Maybe it will help, maybe not, I guess, depending on the context, right? But if you can give some specific tips or areas of focus, great. And if you don't, maybe the focus is not gonna be the feedback. Maybe the focus is on asking is more of a debrief, right? How did it go? What did you feel? What would you like to try differently next time? And letting your kid lead this. And lastly, and very importantly, again, as you're thinking about the feedback conversation, make sure that your kid really has a chance to improve based on what you're suggesting. So first of all, make sure you're not suggesting something that is super hard for your kid right now, because then your kid will try, fail all these times and give up. So suggest something that is achievable for your child, right? Improve and then get better and then get better. But also ideally have an opportunity to practice and improve really soon thereafter. And if you're giving feedback in real time, all the better. Suggest a small improvement, let your kid implement it. So you can say, amazing, well done. What do you think? And your kid goes, yeah, that went really well, right? So these are a few considerations to keep in mind as you're preparing to have this conversation. So before kind of blurting out feedback or suggestions, take a moment to think, am I in a good place? Is my kid in a good place? Am I suggesting something that's actually helpful? Could I sprinkle in something positive that is real? Great, okay, now it's, all right, so back to the beginning, right? There are two ways to give feedback, I would say. One is impulsive, and one is more skilled. I think the impulsive way of giving feedback, it mostly helps us feel like we're doing something or maybe venting some frustration. It sometimes helps performance, sometimes doesn't. It definitely does not help with relationship, with a kid's self-worth and self-efficacy if it's done with any kind of negativity, which corrective feedback exhibits negativity, right? When it's impulsive. Whereas when you take a moment to think about the feedback you want to give, and you give it in a way that is also focusing on the relationship between you and the kid and on increasing your kid's self-efficacy, then you're getting improved performance and improved relationship. It's sort of everything for the cost of spending a little more time thinking about it. So that would be my recommendation. We're going to pause in a minute. Well, I'm going to stop talking in a minute and we'll switch to the Q&A. I just wanted to say, those of you who are interested in more content like this, first you have Parent Venture. Charlene and Bev are here, and of course you know them already if you're here, but if you don't know them very well, I recommend that you do. And you're also welcome to go over to my website, parentingforhumans.com. If you go to the /join part of the website, or if you just go to the website and click the join thing, you'll subscribe to the newsletter. You'll hear about other workshops that are happening, see some writing. I'm working on a book now and sending up chapters for feedback from people if you're interested, and people that are interested in a parenting group. We have opportunities for parents just to meet and think together about their kids, basically just take a little break in life and think about what's going well, what could be better, what are ways to achieve that. So you're all very welcome to head over there if you're interested.